Buddhists are the followers of Buddha, who is the founder of the religion, Buddhism. And if you're familiar with his story, he is supposed to have left behind a sleeping wife and a baby in the middle of the night in search of enlightenment. He was the rich, handsome prince of this kingdom called Kapilavastu. And what he saw around him, the misery, people dying, and so many other things that he could not manage, made him seek more. So he left his family in the middle of the night to look for more, in search of more. Much has been told about the story of Buddha and how he founded Buddhism. However, not much has been told about the wife who was left behind, who did not sign up for this. Toastmasters and guests. This is a book about YASHODHARA, who is the wife of Buddha. This is not a book which gives you the facts, which tells you her life, shares with you her life as it was, but it is a fictional interpretation of how her life must have been when the man she married abandoned her in the middle of the night, and how she came to terms with it. This book is written by this author, Nishi Deep, who happens to be the mother of a good friend of mine, and she gifted me this book, and I was intrigued by the concept of the story. I started reading. So here it is. For my presentation today, which is read out loud, I'm supposed to read from a book, interpreting it with emotions as I go, and I have selected some chapters from this book for my reading. I will start with chapter 1, where she sees the prince come back to her to visit her after he left her, and all of the feelings that are displayed in that revisit of his. We will go on. I will definitely add in a particular chapter that the author wanted me to include as well, and then I will wrap it up. So here we are. I'm going to sit down for this presentation just to make it like a true storytelling, to make it as cozy as I can make it, possibly make it. Chapter 1. The prince returns. He looked so unlike himself in appearance, but underneath, the essence of his being remained untouched. She stood at the window, facing the palace gates, as she had for what seemed like 100 years. This was the path that had taken Siddhartha away. This is the path that will bring him back, Yashodhara's implicit fate said. A gentle breeze blew her hair across her comely face. Anyone who did not know her could not have recognized her as the princess of Kapilavastu. She looked plain and withered. Her hair was left loose, over which draped a pale blue veil embroidered with tiny pink flowers. Although her dusty skin was flawless, it was almost devoid of luster, and her pale lips were slightly parched and dry. It was her eyes that arrested attention. They sparkled and spoke 1,000 words, bringing alive her entire being. Looking into the depths was like peering into her soul. Siddhartha had made much of them and said they changed hue with her moods, especially when she cried, or became angry, or the color of her clothes. One could never tell if they were green or brown or simply a mix of both. If you didn't have those eyes, you wouldn't be you, he had often said. She had worn no color, no jewelry, since the day Siddhartha had left. For whom shall I adorn myself? What for are the ornaments? She shall be queen of the greatest king that ever ruled the world, the learned astrologers at her father's palace had said about her future. Where were they now? Hiding in some guilty corner of their hearts for having made a young girl so happy and so full of hope. So forlorn now, a gust of wind blew her veil across her eyes and she turned away. At first, she could not fathom from where the noise came, nor did she care. But as it grew louder and closer, YASHODHARA felt her heartbeats quicken. A strange premonition filled the air, compelling her to look back. For a moment, she was spellbound. Is this not what she had waited for all these years? Woven dreams of his homecoming, and now that he was here, she could not move. Suspended in time, she looked on as one does in a dream. She saw him clearly amid a group of hermits in saffron-colored robes. He looked so different from the time she had seen him last that her eyes did not recognize him. But the heart vibrates beyond the physical confines, and she knew from his mere presence. She could see him with her eyes closed. He looked so unlike himself in his appearance, but underneath, the essence of his being remained untouched. His matted hair, now longer, had changed its color from a glossy brown to a dull black and was coiled on top of his head. His half-closed eyes seemed to be seeing more than the obvious. In his saffron robe, he appeared like the other hermits in the group, but the golden aura that glistened around him was his alone. It had been so long since the sentries of the palace had seen him that they could not remember him. Taking the group for regular hermits from the forest, they said very politely, "Sirs, if you wait a while, the maids will bring for you something to eat. Tell Princess YASHODHARA I have come to meet her," she heard him say, firmly in his unforgettable, resonant voice. That ends chapter 1. That's the time she sees him after all that time. Turned out, Buddha did come back. Buddha did not come to live with her and continue the life that he had left behind, but he had come back to take his son back with him. So the only thing that she had left behind was also going to be taken away by the man she loved and married. She did not know why this was happening, but Buddha, the Enlightened One, knew.